Hello everyone. Today the material is unscripted. We're filming the NORDBERG NS9 sandblasting cabinet. We'll take a practical look at this cabinet. As you can see, it has already been used. This content is for those who want to know how to choose equipment for a specific type of work. And Vitaly, based on his own experience, will share some practical insights from his perspective.
In fact, we're going to try all of this live, as they say, without any preparation. We're using whatever we have on hand. This is a disc that the guys tried to clean with various solvents. We are loading it in there to check
how it works.
There, it's already in pretty bad shape. The second disc, which they managed to clean a little, we'll show that as well.
But that's still not too bad.
These are the solvents. Actually, the cleaning process is quite complicated. If we show how much material we have here underneath for testing and everything else, it will be clear examples and a clear picture of how much each person has to go through in order to get it right, like when you buy a camera and then have to set up the whole process. This one here, let's say by fraction, can actually be used in the chamber. That is, the lighting makes it a bit hard to see, of course. Here, the fraction here goes up to 1.2.
Yes, you can see it's quite coarse.
But it ranges from 0.1 to 1.2.
The fraction
of copper slag.
There.
The chamber refused to work with it at all. So this ejector type operation of the chamber, for some reason, doesn't allow it to work with this kind of fraction. It was basically spitting it out, not cleaning at all. I'll even try to dig out what we have somewhere right now. Some experiments. Everything here has been settled for a long time now. That, if you pay attention, the approach of light is here. This is what we tried to clean 1.6. Look how rough the processing is. But what's more...
Yes, it's more visible this way.
Moreover, the gun works absolutely inadequately. That is, it constantly gets clogged, it pulsates. That is, it doesn't work smoothly. Well, it's a real grind. I mean, I could go on for a long time telling stories about when we were buying all these abrasives. What problems arose when suppliers offered us tons of it. I mean, as I said, this isn't an open production. It's a closed box where we just don't use up that much abrasive. But they keep telling us, buy a ton. I tell them we just need 25, 30, maybe 50 kilograms to try out. We can pay a fair price for it, no problem. Any price. No, they say you can only buy a ton, and...
Where's the guarantee that it will actually work for us?
Yeah. And that's the whole point. It's all about selection. Like I said, it's about experience, finding the right fit. After that, we'll buy as much as needed. If we need a ton, we'll buy a ton. We need to understand the consumption rate, how much the chamber can handle. We'll look at the performance and sand consumption and see how quickly it wears out. That's it. This was after we used quartz sand. We used to buy quartz sand. So the very first fraction we used was 0.1 to 0.4. That's it. So this is our quartz. That's it. But in this case, what you see here is a mix of 0.4 to 0.6 fraction, with the finer ones 0.1, 0.4, and 0.4, 0.6, so that the surface treatment is at least somewhat decent, because this softer sand was more for decorative finishing. The surface was dulled. It looks nice, but it doesn't clean well. It breaks apart, it crumbles. After a couple of treatments, the sand is gone. It just turns into dust. I'll just show you what the sand turns into. So there's a little settling tank here. Just a second, we'll find some kind of container. So cleaning all this is quite a pleasure, of course. It's very powdery, but it is what it is. Yes, so you have to take all this into account. This is what our sand turns into. It's like flour. This is, let's say, the worn out abrasive that our cyclone collects. By the way, here's something for sandblasting. A very good thing for sandblasting, because when you started working with a chamber that didn't have any of this, it was just torture, literally, in just a couple of minutes. The chamber would just get clogged, you'd have a ton of dust in the air, and you couldn't see anything.
What kind of work did you get it for anyway? Well, wheels, obviously.
Let me give you a clear example right now. Look, right here on the table. It's a bit messy here because there's a lot of work and we don't always have time to keep up. All of this is going to be cleaned and washed We prepare things here, so to speak, stacking the parts that we then sort out. So here's an example of a part. For example, when an engine is being overhauled or some kind of repair or restoration work is being done. Here's an example. This is a part. This is a front cover, possibly for venting crankcase gases on a Renault engine. Just like this, we have an engine mount bracket. Look, all of this gets washed in some kind of automatic washers. These can be ultrasonic washers, pressure washers, chemical washes, or even done by hand. It doesn't matter. So here's the condition of the part we have. After such extensive restoration work, I think everyone wants to see some kind of visual appeal or, let's say, evidence of quality work. So all these deposits, it's all fine. Yes, this is a working engine. We're not making it brand new, but it's really not difficult to do something like this. These are the covers and housings that don't have any oil channels. It's strictly forbidden to clean those in artificial chambers. These are just front covers, some timing chain covers, and again, as I said, there's nothing inside them. So it's more about aesthetics, you could say. We took this on to try and do it, to see if we could make the repair aesthetically pleasing and proper. So aside from all the technical aspects, there's also an aesthetic component. We're trying to make it all come together, so to speak. And the second point is the discs, which, for example, I'm not sure. There's already a pile of them here, and we'll use them to explain and demonstrate. So it starts with steel rims, which we used for all our experiments, then an old or alloy wheel from some car, which we also experimented on. The paint was really old, it was hard to remove, and sandblasting it was very difficult. And now, as an example, we've brought 2 wheels to show how the stripping process works. Today, after a long search and many conversations with the managers at the NORDBERG store, we finally settled on a solution. We managed to find the product that the manufacturer recommended to us, and the technical specifications for the blasting chamber were also provided. In other words, an abrasive powder was specifically developed for this kind of work, with the required fraction clearly indicated. As for its actual wear, we'll talk about that later, how long it lasts, how effective it is for cleaning, and how much you can get out of it. Basically, that's it. This completes the setup for this chamber and covers everything you need to work with. There's no need to experiment any further. Everything you need is already here. Now we're going to clean the front side of the disc. It's going to get noisy from here on, so I think you'll want to mute the sound yourself. The glass is a bit cloudy because the chamber is in use. It's not new. It arrived already used and is currently working. Look, one more thing. Please move aside the suppression. There's a manometer installed here. This is also one of the important factors. So, read the technical documentation. Everything is specified there, including the pressure at which the chamber should operate so that your abrasive isn't overpowered, because at high pressures it will simply turn to dust. It ends up breaking down more than actually cleaning. This also affects its lifespan, so you don't end up in a situation like ours, where people say, that's not the right abrasive, you sold us the wrong thing, it doesn't work. So you need to read a little, experiment, and talk to people.
And what about the air consumption of the chamber? Well, approximately. I think liters.
800.
800 liters. Well, I think it's actually rated at 850.
We had a compressor, let's say, of Soviet manufacture, a SO7B model. So for our needs, pneumatic tools, some blow-offs, it was more than enough. But when we installed the chamber, the compressor just started to die. The stated capacity of the compressor was 550 liters. It was absolutely not enough. It just kept running without shutting off. Where did we start? We started by assembling a proper pneumatic line, and only after that did we begin selecting abrasives. So after all that, when we realized our compressor wasn't working, we bought a Russian-made compressor with a capacity of about 300 liters per minute. It's quite a powerful machine that actually works. And now we'll have a demonstration, meaning at what pressure and how it holds up under full activation. This is something you need to know for operating the chamber, not just the abrasives or some technical parts of the chamber, like which disc to use, but also the preparation, the air supply, and the amount of air needed for operation. Let's see how it will clean using our abrasive.
That took about a minute.
in my opinion.
That's precisely what it ultimately turned out to be, according to my precise timing and careful calculations.
There's a bit of a lack of light, but I think we just need to replace the protective films on the windows. The chamber has started up. You can see in operation that it's just a little lacking because this is a working chamber. It wasn't prepared for filming. It's just as it is right now. So if we change all that, it will be a little better and more visible. That's how it is. In other words, every piece of equipment needs to be properly maintained, but that's not our focus right now. So literally in a minute, we take a stripped disc, let's say one that's been cleaned of paint by various methods, and we mount it to the super slags. We remove this disc, take it off, it was more or less prepared, and now we put on a disc that is really...
That's incredibly tough.
With this particular one, I truly think that even this abrasive material will have to work a little bit harder to achieve the desired effect.
On your command.
Yes, turn it on, I'm ready.
Let's go. So 2 minutes and 20 seconds. Now let's see what we've got after this time. Well, here of course you really have to work at it. Here.
It's not right to say that this camera can do everything. We'll get it all done, but let me explain right away what the nuance is here. Look, the paint, this paint we have from the last port, what's left of it, so to speak. So it was treated with a remover, it became soft, it's pliable. This powder is a very good abrasive, it breaks down the paint really well, but it can't handle it when the paint becomes pliable or somewhat elastic. That's why the processing time increases, and sometimes even with just one layer of coproplaque, you still have to use some removers again because it becomes soft. It can't remove it. So that's how it is. Basically, you have to spend a lot of time on a disc like this, even though some people say, what's the big deal about cleaning a disc? That's one full workday, entire chambers, and one person. In a few words, to show the difference between them.
Look, we just removed a complicated one with you, a really neglected case. One of the discs we have is already partially
prepared. We're just cleaning it so that the person who will be doing the painting can work, let's say, smoothly and monotonously without any issues. Well, monotonously here means in a single tone of paint, so he could prepare it in such a way that there wouldn't be any patchiness or anything like that, and so the surface would be properly prepared. So it gets cleaned much faster, as you saw for yourselves. And the wheel, which, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but sometimes it really seems like it's easier to just throw these wheels away than to prepare them, because it takes so much time and effort to get them ready. Is it really worth it? And for example, I'll show you this wheel, which people tried to clean with all sorts of removers, and by heating it, I don't even know. We had some pretty determined people, and they tried to clean it. So let me give you an example of a wheel that was also just lying around somewhere in our storage. No one tried to clean it. It was painted properly, at least for the most part. So we've already done some experiments on it, and now I'll just show you the inside part, that is the regular paint, which isn't elastic and hasn't been removed with anything. You'll see for yourself how big the difference is, even with a finished painted wheel, how it gets cleaned. Exactly 1 minute and 30 seconds. So, a flat, smooth surface is very convenient for cleaning. We're not talking about some kind of fancy shaped wheel here, but at least this is what we have right now. For example, I mentioned that it's painted and primed. And the processing speed, so the same thing happened here. It cleans the wheels absolutely well and quickly, as long as no one uses different methods to remove the paint, strippers, and similar things. We focus more on engine repair, meaning if a person understands what these carbon deposits on the pistons are and knows what needs to be covered in order to clean them out, because brushes and similar tools can cause scratches and other issues, then a completely different material is used for that purpose. You can't use copper slag or other abrasives of that kind there, because they provide too rough a treatment. I'll also show you how it works with quartz sand and why it's needed. Then you can decide for yourself whether you need to see this and how long your abrasive will last. Look, we've cleaned just one, let's say, disc, which you could basically just throw away here. You can figure out the cost of this abrasive yourself, but roughly speaking, it's about 800 rubles per bucket, and you'll need 4 buckets, each costing 800 rubles to work properly in this chamber. Just take a look at what this disc does with the abrasive, which, let's be honest, isn't cheap. And then you have to ask yourself, how much does it cost to clean discs in this condition? And is it really worth it when you're either just throwing away the material you're working with or spending a lot of time cleaning it, time that just isn't worth it? Now, as for the process of replacing the abrasive material, we're going to carefully remove the old abrasive from this particular area and then simply switch to using sand. This is basically how you will effectively change out the specific material you use to thoroughly clean the surface. There. It's all pretty straightforward here. The cone is designed so that the abrasive you're using to clean collects at the bottom of the bowl, or the so-called iPhone, hopper. Here we have the intake tube where all of this will be poured in, and if you don't sift this sand, it will just end up in there. Basically, you'll have wasted a couple thousand rubles, just thrown away with a single disc. That's basically it. Now we're looking for a container to collect the abrasive for reuse. No one's going to throw it away just yet. We'll keep using it as it wears down. Later, we'll try to tell you how much abrasive you need and how long it lasts under normal use without damaging the material using this so-called slag. I definitely recommend using some kind of cellophane or polyethylene because everything is very sensitive to moisture. Moisture is the enemy for sandblasting, for the gun, and for the sand itself. And with just one light, gentle pull, in merely a single minute, you've successfully got yourself 50 kilograms of fine, granular sand ready for use. It might just keep up while the exhaust is running.
That's all there is to it. But now we'll show how the chamber works with quartz sand. So now, on the disc that we already started working on, we'll show it on the sand.
The sand fraction is 0.4 to 0.6, which is the closest you can use. Preparation, it's the same disc, just from the other side. No preparation, nothing at all, just quartz sand for you. Its fraction is a bit higher, indicating a slightly more concentrated composition. However, the exceptional quality of its processing, meaning it meticulously doesn't leave any unwanted paint residue on top of the surface, it effectively and thoroughly removes it quite well. It's remarkably fast in its operation, but let's proceed to demonstrate its impressive capabilities and show it to you now in action. The sand is a bit more airborne than this one. 1 minute. Exactly 1 minute. And let's check the quality of the process. This is the precise result. This is indeed fine quartz sand, and this clearly shows the distinct mark of the cutter. The specific spot, on average, measures approximately 20 by 20 units, indicating a consistent and uniform dimension. The quality of the result. But if you look closely, there's another nuance. With copper slag, the surface becomes a bit wider. When processed with sand, the surface is smoother. This is because during processing, the sand also slightly crumbles, and it doesn't chip as much or isn't as angular as abrasive material. As an example, we'll just show in engines. If you properly isolate everything from sand getting in, here's what you can do. It's the same thing the guys showed, using valves as an example, how they clean carbon deposits off pistons. I think, well, you only need to clean off the really tough deposits. Everything else can basically be washed off in cleaning baths. But just as an example, we'll show you what this piston looks like after such treatment. Wow.
Wow,
So according to 50,
just a few seconds.
this piston is not suitable for use because all the oil channels and everything else in it are clogged. It just seems to us that sometimes you can use these quick cleaning pistons and a small knife to make cleaning them easier.
If, well, we could name this section somehow, I wouldn't call it a department. Not a department. Based on experience in practice, it's simply invaluable. I think on this note, we all...
Shake hands.
That's the end. Thank you so much. Drop by the shop, there will definitely be something from me for you.
All right, thank you. Give it. Okay.